Hey, Mr. Ryan, how are you doing today, sir?
What's happening, Mike? How are you?
Doing well. Figured, we get the same question all of the time, and I know that we'll get it 1,000 more times. But you and I were discussing offline, for people coming into our area that don't already live here, they always ask us, hey, if I'm moving to Palmdale, where do I want to live?
Yep, always.
Right?
Or sometimes they already have like some preconceived notion on where they got to be. They'll
Yep.
say, I don't know if you get this one, I get it, where they go, yeah, I know I want to go to Palmdale. It's kind of the price point we're looking for, but it needs to be on the west side. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, hold on a minute. Like, have you ever lived here? Let's talk about that. Or you get the same thing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All the time. They're like, oh
Yeah,
no, a friend from work or a relative that lives there now or used to live there told me that the only place I can live is west of the freeway.
right.
I'm like, okay, like I can get why they say that. You know what I mean? But it's not a full truth. It's not a hard line approach. Um, and there's lots of things that go around that, right? Um, And so I think my first approach with people on that is like, okay, well, what are you looking for in a home, right? And age is going to be a big factor on, because if there's somebody that has to have a home built after 2000 or 2010, that eliminates a whole lot of areas, right? And then roll
Mhm.
into like, okay, any other factors, because like very few tract homes here have 4-car garages, right? And if they need that, then that's going to put them over here. Um, what else do you see on that?
Yeah, I mean, I question it, so I want to hear them out, and I agree with them. I mean, really, if you just kind of look from the outside, and we're kind of taking the perspective of a potential buyer just flying in and coming blind into an area that they don't really know.
Yep.
You and I are both lifers. We've been out here
Yeah.
forever, so we can give really some unique perspective as to, good spots, bad spots. And
Yep.
I always frame it first, and I'll say, there's some truth to that, and we'll go deeper into it. But just to give you just a really quick answer,
Mm-hmm.
there's really good neighborhoods on both sides of the train tracks. Okay. So there's good spots in West Palmdale, there's good spots in East Palmdale.
Yep.
And just as there's good spots, there's also bad spots on both sides too.
For sure.
And so just because there's a zip code that ends in a 93551
Mm-hmm.
doesn't necessarily mean it's the home for you. Let's talk a little bit more about it. And then we'll jump into some more questioning, kind of to your point about, are you looking for a 4-car garage? Are you looking for a certain age? If it's a family, is it a certain school district? If it's a commuter, who has been living in the valley and they're looking for home ownership instead of renting,
Yep.
and they're saying, you know what, I'm okay with the drive. I'll make it happen. It's like, okay, great. Well, how can we get you to the freeway fairly quick
Yeah.
to get on the road?
Yep.
And then how do we get you off the freeway so you can actually be home? That's really important as well,
For sure.
right? So a lot of questioning comes up, and there's it can take you into different neighborhoods to your point,
Yep.
and some of those happen to be in the East Palmdale area, which are really really nice. They're
Yeah.
close to a lot of convenient things, good schools, good shopping, and close to you can just jump on a pear blossom and run right up to the freeway pretty quickly sometimes. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'd like to hear out what their thoughts are and what the reasoning is.
For sure. So again, both sides of the freeway are totally fine. Um, and a lot of it too, like we'll go into price, like what price range are you looking? Um, the commute is the biggest thing. Where are you going to work? If you're local, right? And how big of a deal is a commute for you? Um, and if it's somebody who comes up and they need to take, you know, the 15 freeway to go to work,
Yeah,
if they're on the east side of LA or whatever, or go down to Riverside, then shortening their drive is going to be going out towards like Pete Knight High School in East Palmdale,
right.
and if they have to have a new home, there's lots of homes out there that are built after 2010 even. There's new construction out there right now. So if that's a hot button for them, right? A lot of stuff that goes in with that. One other thing that I explain to buyers is, try not to take the east versus west approach. Um, I tell them, and there's even a caveat against this, like it's not a good hard and fast rule. I tell them that if they can afford it, they probably want to be in a newer neighborhood, right? And just the unfortunate truth sometimes is that, you get out here and we're wide open desert. And so when we expand, we go horizontally, We don't go
Right.
vertically, right? And so a lot of the older homes, it's not like LA where there's nowhere else to go to build a new home, and they come in and they make it amazingly nice, and they have pride of ownership and they keep it. It's a lot of our buyers when they have those homes, once they can afford to either renovate that house and give it a facelift, or move, they typically end up moving because a lot of our older homes are, like 1,000 square feet, right?
Right.
So they just outgrow it that way too. But even with that, there's several amazing, executive neighborhoods that were built in the 50s that you would be blessed to live in for sure. So there's a lot that goes into that. But yeah, what else do you hit with people when they're trying to pick your brain on location, or they're trying to tell you that they have to have you on the west side?
Well, we try to figure out from them, what it would be like to own the home. And so I'm kind of listening at that point to, are you driving to go see family? Are you driving to commute to work every day? And if so, then let's kind of talk about how often are you going to do that, and how convenient is the road that's nearest to you to get you and connect you to the freeway. We're trying to find out what they want out of the house. And so sometimes we're hearing people that have been in apartment situations, maybe they've rented small homes for a very long time, and their number one thing, not as much on the age of the home, although we introduce that a little bit later.
Yeah.
Their number one thing is like, I want a yard.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have a place to go to, because they go to parks typically, and some of these congested locations, they don't have yard space, so they all go to parks. They have barbecues at parks, birthday parties are done at parks, because they just don't have the space at their own place.
Yep.
And here in the NL Valley, Palmdale or Lancaster, we have yards, right? It's like kind of an older concept. A lot of the brand new properties that are being built and developed around the country are very small, very maintainable yards, but they're really tight. You can't really congregate, you're not having like a lot of family parties over. And a lot of people kind of associate that home ownership dream with having some space.
Yeah.
And so sometimes the older homes, and to your point, we build wide, right? We get the newer ones sometimes pushing out because that's where the vacant land is.
Yep.
Sometimes those older homes that are more centrally located happen to be close to freeways.
Yeah.
And back in the day, we had a lot of land, we had a lot of space. So our lot size might be 12 or 14,000 square feet on the lot, versus a modern lot might be closer to 7,000 square feet. The home size is different. So where you might have had a 1,200 square foot home, now you're getting a 2,600 square foot home. But guess what? It's built on a lot that's half the size of the other one. So you feel like you have more space sometimes on those older properties.
Yeah.
So there's some appeal to that. And got to remember, if you're coming out of the area, you're probably not living in a very brand new unit anyways. You're probably living in something that was built like really at a similar era as to what you're looking at, that might be centrally located. And again, to just kill off a myth, it doesn't necessarily mean you're in a crummy neighborhood. I mean, you could be in a really good spot either side of the train tracks. You just got to be careful. And that's where, local knowledge comes into play. Meeting with you, and you're driving people around all the time, you're going to know, like, this is the one way you got to come into this neighborhood, but you won't want to go the other way. If I take them the other way, like, this neighborhood's terrible, right? So you can steer them clear of things that they might be concerned about, and help somebody avoid, something with buyer's remorse. It'd be terrible for somebody to make a purchase like this. It's a big deal, and go, man, this neighborhood's brutal. Like, I wish I would have known that. And the only way to know it is to be here. You got to be boots on the ground, know the area. And so I think it's important, to meet, you're local, you're going to know this stuff. And we always encourage that. You can only do so much online and shopping and Google mapping and things like that. It's different to kind of know and be born here and know what that neighborhood is and what it used to be and what it is today.
Yeah. Another thing I tell buyers when they're entertaining a house or when they have an offer in on it, I'll tell them, like, just stalk the house. Like, every chance you get at all times of the day, just drive by.
Right.
Go see on the weekends, on the weeknights, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 8 o'clock in the evening, and just stalk the house and make sure that you're happy with it. And again, like you said, like, we're lifers here, and so we can tell you pretty accurately, very quickly, details of a neighborhood. And, but don't rely on us for that, like, because what I might not think is bad, you might. So you need to go stalk the house and make sure that you're happy with that. But we can give you good guidance going into it.
Yeah, I think having a lot of clarity as to what would be okay with you, where you can be flexible as a potential homeowner or buyer,
Mm-hmm.
and have some really, really hard stops, right? The more
Yeah.
that you know as their agent to take them out that have you've got a lot of hard no's,
Yep.
heck knows, right?
Yep.
So if they're giving you that, then you can guide them.
Mm-hmm.
If it's kind of wishy-washy, like, oh, I don't care if I'm next to a school or not. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, are you aware of the school traffic during various parts of the day? Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Because if you're not, and you see a house, maybe it's summertime and there's a little bit of school traffic, and they're like, oh, that's not bad. It's like, no, that's summer school.
Yeah.
Like
That's not the
regular
entire time.
times is different, and maybe when you're leaving your home to go to work, it happens to be peak hours, and you get stopped by bus after bus after bus with a stop sign out,
Yeah.
and you have to leave 20 minutes early. These are things that we have to figure out, and you can do it by stalking. So great tip.
For sure. All right. Anything else we want to cover on picking a location or debunking any myths when it comes to, areas of the valley?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is east versus west,
Yep.
because it's just generalized a lot of times on those two locations. But what I would challenge people to do is, again, have a conversation with somebody local. And then a lot of times you and I, because we're here and we kind of are in the know, we'll know areas that are kind of on the up and up. And so, for
Yeah.
example, you brought up like Pete Knight High School.
Yep.
That's an area that I'm not out that direction all that often, but I happen to know
Mm-hmm.
just because there's no reason for me to be there unless we're taking kids to baseball or whatever that happened to be out that way. But I happen to know that area has like exploded. There's a ton of housing out there,
Yeah.
a lot of really modern housing, like houses that are built 06, 07, 08, 2010. I mean, they're fairly new.
Yep.
And then you have Super Target, you've got Lowe's, there's a ton of stuff that's going on out there, and there's a lot more that's being developed, and there's a lot of focus on that area.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people that are coming in that need to use that 15 as a commute. And there's another thing too there. You just reminded me when you said Pete Knight and the 15 is that that whole Highway 138.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid, that Highway 138 was a freaking disaster. I mean, it was like the roller coaster. It still is, but the roads were terrible.
Yeah.
So not only was it somewhat unsafe being 2-lane highway, the roads themselves were terrible.
Yeah.
They've completely redone that. It's actually it's like a really blissful, smooth road now when you're driving it. So, but they've done it because there's a lot of traffic there, and they recognize, it's a good connection point to get somebody to the 15 who may be, driving into Riverside or some San Bernardino County.
Yep, for sure. Awesome. All righty, sir. So, if anybody out there has questions on areas and locations that you want to pick our brain on, again, both of us have been here our entire lives and know the area very well. And we'd love to help you figure out, where your next home is going to be.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, guys.
Perfect. Thanks, Brian. Have a good day, sir.
All right. See ya.
Bye.